Hello and welcome to Kamen Rider Recap, the only show where TV will talk to you about a TV show. So now that I'm reviewing these episodes, well, episodically, let's fall right into Gaim number 23. Take the field, Kachidoki arms. The episode starts off with Kaido spreading bait around Helheim to lure out an overlord, an invest that has evolved and retained its sapience. Professor Sengoku has set Kaido off on this task, but Kaido pretty much wants to get the power this overlord has for himself. Then we cut to Koda, who's leaving Yggdrasil after what happened last episode. Takatora told him that Koda was the one who killed Yuya after the latter turned into the invest that Koda first fought. Takatora thinks Koda is just a husk of who he used to be and won't be a problem from now on. And then we see Michi for a little bit as he shows the audience how much more he's descending down the road into evil. Koda then goes to visit the spot where he and Mai first entered Helheim and reminisces about his first battle. Mai comes by and reports that the cross-team dance group is doing well and that Koda should come by sometime to dance with them. Koda refuses though and is about to tell Mai the truth about Yuya when Michi shows up and drags Koda off before he can tell her. Speaking of Mai, I swear to God it feels like the first time we've seen her in forever. Which makes sense since we've passed the breakdancing saga of Gaim, but I still wish she could stay relevant to the plot. Maybe by somehow getting her hands on a rider belt? Anyways, Michi reveals that he's known about what happened to Yuya for a while now, and that it's both his and Koda's duty to keep the truth under wraps for Mai's sake, so that she won't blame herself, as well as to ensure the happiness Michi's so keen on protecting. Anyone else getting flashbacks to Rebel Without a Cause? Just put Koda in a red jacket and I think you'll start to see the resemblance. Meanwhile, back at the forest, the Overlord has found Kaido's bait, a dictionary and a plaque, which the Overlord then destroys right in front of Kaito. By the way, nice job hiding the fact that the book is pre-torn there, guys. The two start to fight, but Kaido barely makes a dent as the Overlord easily overpowers him. And let's mention how Kaido's undergone the Worf effect here. For the first two sagas, Kaido was a force to be reckoned with, but now he's mostly just kicked around by the big bads to show how tough they are. But that could also be a part of his whole weakness and power thing, since he's searching for that power, and he knows he hasn't found it yet. Koda ends up at Droopers, where we discover that Michi has told Koda to leave the battle over Helheim and Yggdrasil to him, and that Koda doesn't have to fight anymore. Hell, even not Mai appears to Koda, seemingly after he leaves Droopers, and tells him he can leave the battle if he wants to. That's when Koda wakes up back in Droopers, and he's alone in the darkened juice bar with DJ Sagara. The two of them talk, with Sagara trying to get Koda back into the battle. But Koda thinks he's no better than Yggdrasil now that he knows his power was ascertained at the sacrifice of his friend. Sagara then tells Koda you can't protect using power without destroying, so his real enemy here isn't Yggdrasil or Helheim, but the iron rule that says the world demands sacrifice in exchange for hope, and that Koda should destroy that rule and change the world. While Koda wraps his head around the idea that he can actually change the world, Sagara talks about Kaido, who is still in battle against the Overlord and still doing badly, but not giving up. Sagara talks about how Kaito's an idiot who's either going to fail horribly or succeed in getting his hands on the power that he's after, and that while Koda's moping, Kaido is getting closer to changing the world. Then Sagara info dumps about the Overlord to Koda, but he does drop the interesting tidbit that the Overlords can control the forest's plants at will, which we get to see demonstrated on Kaito. While they talk, Sagara somehow transforms an orange from the bar into a brand new Lockseed. He also tells Koda that Professor Sengoku is after the Overlords as well, and using Kaido to do it. Knowing that Professor Sengoku is involved gets Koda angry, and Sagara, pleased to see some fire in Koda's eyes again, imparts to Koda the new Kachidoki Lockseed, as well as a Dandelighter. Koda also realizes that if they get to the Overlords first, they might have a chance to stop the invasion. Sagara disappears and the bar is well lit and full of people again. Koda dashes out of the bar and right up to Yggdrasil's tower, transforming and hopping on the Dandelighter with the intent of destroying the scalar weapon. As the bike he's on is shot down and he hurtles towards the roof of the tower, Koda transforms using his new Lockseed into his Kachidoki arms. Okay, let me just get this all out in one go. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my fucking god, look how fucking cool he is with the helmet and the flags and the guns, oh my god! Alright, I think that about sums it up. In his new arms, Gaim is nigh invulnerable to the Kurokage mooks that attack him. He plows through them easily using his DJ gun and Kachidoki flags. So I guess that whole protect without sacrifice thing doesn't extend to mooks, huh? Then Takatora enters the fray and tries to get Koda to back down, but he doesn't give. Koda hops onto another Dandelighter, where he got that one is anyone's guess, and destroys the scalar weapon, freeing the city from Yggdrasil's grasp, as well as forcing them to get serious about protecting the city. Also, never mind all the shrapnel that you just rained down upon any passerby who are walking around the tower when you decide to destroy the weapon. Protection without sacrifice. Also, turns out some other people were watching the battle. Not Mai and DJ Sagara have a discussion on the adjacent rooftop, where Not Mai tries to berate Sagara for dragging Kota back into the battle. Sagara says he can't see the future, but knows who Not Mai is and what it means to be chosen by her, as well as wanting to keep an eye on things. Okay, what the actual fuck? Who the hell is Sagara then? Is he like a forest spirit or whatever, like Not Mai? Is it like a spirit borrowing the form of the real Sagara? Or did Yggdrasil literally hire some guy with seemingly no background to be the inner circle of their Helheim plans? Ugh. Also, Michi and Professor Sengoku were watching the fight. Sengoku is pretty pissed that Kota somehow managed to get a lock seed he doesn't know about, and wants Michi to find out who's helping Kota from the shadows. And the episode ends there. This episode was something else. As an early episode in a new saga, it's understandable that it would give us more questions than answers, and the few answers we would get would be more towards wrapping up loose ends from the previous sagas. Still, Jesus Christ, there were a lot of questions raised. How many overlords are there? What the hell is DJ Sagara? Who is Not Mai? Why is Michi turning into Eiji from O's? So many fucking questions crammed into like 23 minutes, it's ridiculous. Besides all the questions, another thing we get is the main theme for the show, sacrifice. We've actually seen it a lot through the main writers. Kaito's willing to sacrifice everything for strength, Michi's willing to sacrifice anything to protect this happiness of his, and Takatora would sacrifice everything and anything to protect mankind and his brother. Now it's come to Kota, and he outright refuses to be a part of it, and this episode not only gives us the theme for the series, but shows our protagonist stamping all over that theme, which is pretty awesome. Speaking of, it's still nice to see Kota react so harshly to everything that happens. In almost any other shonen-type story, the main character in Kota's shoes would have just strengthened their resolve to take down the bad guys for leading to their friend's death. Kota literally blue screens for most of the episode before deciding to get back into the battle. And even then, he still sees himself as the reason his friend is dead, but using the power he has to make sure no one has to make the same mistakes again. It's so much to Gaim's credit how well they handle their characters and let them have a good chunk of time to deal with their feelings. They don't let it feel like the show's getting bogged down, but they also don't cheat the viewers out of proper character development. All in all, it was a pretty good episode and definitely leaves me wanting more. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. So with that said, I'll be reviewing the Tokuger and Gaim crossover next week. Hopefully I'll be able to stay on track and get it out in a timely manner. Orange, you glad I don't make terrible jokes?